Music. What's next?
You tell me.
I don't know. You're the expert. I'm not on the front lines.
I think the way that we've been going is, people have been putting out singles and projects, and it's not just like putting out an album. People don't even say albums anymore. They'll be like, I've got a project. And people are also really, I think, back to visuals. That's important too, because right now we're so inundated with things that we can possibly listen to, and different regions and everything, and the ability to not have to go and see somebody in person somewhere, that experiences matter so much more. So now it's like, how can I be more creative and make sure that I stand out from everything else that's happening, because there's a lot of noise that people have to separate themselves from. So fundamentally, like, it has to be amazing, but then how do you support that, and what do you do for your fans to show them that, okay, I'm giving you X, Y, and Z also on top of this.
TikTok, good or evil?
Oh, TikTok is amazing. I think it's really fun. The hard thing, and I feel like it's about social media in general, is knowing what is real and what is not, right? And just making sure that when you're consuming things, you're also doing your own research and not believing everything just because somebody did a TikTok about it. And so that's the danger of it, but I think that you have to limit what you consume. And I'm really good at making sure that I'm not always on all these different platforms, not always on TikTok. And I think it's also been good for people to be able to monetize and also have businesses. It kind of levels the playing ground. I think for people who may not come from money or may not have the ability to fund things, and but are really creative. So I would say it's a positive more than negative.
Let's talk about the last point here. Opportunities for young people and those who've been historically disenfranchised. What's the future?
I think, just like what we were talking about, with leveling the playing field and having access, that's important. I think there's a lot of programs that are available too that people really have to make sure that they seek in order to be able to have these opportunities. And I just feel like if you can be really creative and consistent, okay, and also just respectful of your audience, that you can definitely have a future and blow up. I feel like sometimes people who have been really privileged aren't taking advantage of the things that, that's available to them, because they don't have to struggle in that way. But with the kids nowadays, I mean, my godchildren know way more than I do. I'm asking them for help. I'm like, how can you do this and how can you do that? And so it's just a great opportunity, but if you're on your phone all day, or your kids are on their phone all day, and you see that they can be actually making money off of that, there's people getting paid to play video games, to go on Twitch, to go on all these different platforms. And so instead of doing things that is a waste of time, figure out how you can actually monetize that. I think there's so many great apps when it comes to investing, when it comes to different things, and kids are on their phone. So we just have to make sure that we're marketing to them, in that way, but also being really responsible.
So, a little advice. Somebody's listening today, they want to meet you. On the radio, or you as a business person, entrepreneur, what advice would you give them?
Well, first, don't want to be me, because I think it is important to know who you are and what makes you different from everybody else, and really stand on that. And then, like I said, it's all about hard work and being consistent. And don't look at what other people are doing and think, I want to do it just like that. You have to think, okay, how can I create my own lane? And how can I also educate myself? I'm a big fan of taking classes and things. Like we said, I'm doing a lot of real estate. Well, I'm getting my real estate license just because I wanted to take the courses to understand it better, to make sure that I could be an expert at it. And that's why, even with Robert Greene's book, Mastery, I always talk about that book. But anything that it is that you want to do, make sure that you're researching it. There's too much information out there for us to not educate ourselves to the highest level on something. It's people dibble and dabble in things, but if you really care about something and you want to go really hard, I'm a big fan of making business plans. Every time I want to do something, even if I'm not using the business plan, I would sit down and write a whole business plan for myself so I can set clear goals, and then always go back and revise those and refresh those.
So, if you could give some advice to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
Should have bought some property earlier when it was really cheap. Because I definitely had times in my life where I might have had a little chunk of money, and that could have bought with a down payment on something, especially back then. And so investing at an earlier age because, I didn't pick up my Roth IRA until I was older, my 401k, all of those things just to prepare for the future. The earlier you do it, the better.
So we usually end every episode of Math and Magic with a shout out to the greats of the math side and magic side of marketing and business. But because we're here today at the NAB conference, we're talking about radio. Give us your shout out for your mentors, heroes, and role models in radio.
Okay, in radio, I have a whole other thing prepared, but but I'm gonna say that too though, because I was gonna say for math, Melody Hobson.
Oh, that's great.
And for magic, I was gonna say Clarissa Shields, because I love her as a boxer. But definitely Angie Martinez. I said that earlier, but I just remember listening to her on the radio, how personable she always was, how as a woman, being in the field that she is in hip hop, there weren't a lot of us that were representing in that way. And then also her morals, right? She never was like a shock jock type of person. And she never cared about like, okay, I'm gonna have this moment and not care about another person. So that's something that I've always looked up to her for the way that she's conducted herself, conducted her interviews, had the longevity that she's had. That's why it's really exciting that she actually, when she came to work at iHeart, I couldn't believe that Angie Martinez was coming to work there. I also love the fact that she was a rapper too. And I know that I hate when people talk about that, but I do think, the guys do it all the time. So I love the fact that she was very like hanging out with Mary J. Blige and Little Kim and Lisa Hilton and all of these people. It was like a real girl power thing for me when I got a chance to see her. And she did start the Battle of the Beats in New York, and I remember when the beef was going on with Jay-Z and Nas, and she was getting the exclusive interviews. It was her, not the guys that were doing it. And she still has this Tupac interview that she has never put out just because we don't even know the reason why, but you can imagine the type of how that would go so viral. But I think, to have morals and to not care about going viral, that's what I really like about somebody like Angie. So she's always been a hero to me.
That's fantastic. Well, Angela, you are an inspiration to many people. You do a fantastic job on the radio. You are affecting culture, driving culture, and as well, you're a successful business person. Congratulations. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
That it?